Ever heard the saying, fake it till you make it? Well, this time let's talk about a slightly different version. What if you pretend to be poor so you can actually get rich? Sounds weird, right? But here's the thing. A lot of wealthy people actually live very simply. And that's not a coincidence. Let's start with an interesting quote from Dave Ramsey, one of the most well-known personal finance experts in America. According to his research on millionaires, there are two main habits that help people build real wealth. First, they consistently invest for the future, things like retirement plans and stable, long-term stocks. Second, they focus on paying off their homes or other major debts. Simple habits, but with powerful results. In today's world of showing off, where appearances often seem more important than reality, it's easy to get caught up in the illusion of wealth. You see someone driving a nice car, wearing designer clothes, and think, wow, they must be rich. But for all we know, that lifestyle could be powered by credit card debt. So what if the real secret to building wealth is actually living simply and spending less than you earn? Today, we're diving into Dave Ramsey's idea of why pretending to be poor, or more accurately, living below your means, can be the true path to financial freedom. Research from the National Endowment for Financial Education found that nearly 70% of people who suddenly come into a lot of money, whether from an inheritance, lottery winnings, or overnight success, end up losing it all within just a few years. Can you imagine coming into a fortune only to end up back at zero? That statistic teaches us something important. Becoming rich isn't just about making money, it's about keeping it. Dave Ramsey talks about this paradox all the time. He says, if you want your life to look different from most people's in the future, you have to live differently from most people today. Most people want to look successful before they actually are successful. Dave Ramsey has a quote that gets repeated a lot. We buy things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people who don't care. It's a tough statement, but it's brutally honest, isn't it? A lot of people get it wrong. They think owning luxury stuff means they're rich. But real wealth isn't about showing off. It's about peace of mind. It's about living without constant anxiety over money, without fearing you can't pay next month's bills, without the stress of endless debt payments. In his teachings, Ramsey always emphasizes one key principle: live below your means. He even has a saying for it: save your money for a rainy day, not if it comes, but when it comes. In other words, it's not a question of whether life will throw problems your way, but when. Whether it's a job loss, a medical emergency, or an economic downturn. And when that happens, you need to be ready. Ramsey also points out that many people who look rich, with fancy cars, big houses, and expensive clothes, are often buried in debt. They're not truly wealthy, they just look like it. And if they keep living that way, they'll stay stuck in the middle class forever, because their lives revolve around payments, credit cards, and bills. They're living to maintain an image, not to achieve financial freedom. Meanwhile, the truly wealthy often don't look rich at all. They're not the ones flaunting their lifestyle on social media. They're the ones quietly saving, investing, and building their assets over time. At the core of Dave Ramsey's philosophy is one simple idea: delayed gratification. You don't have to buy something just because you want it right now. If you can hold off and use that money for something that matters more, like investing, building an emergency fund, or paying off debt, you're planting the seeds for a secure future. Living simply doesn't mean you're poor. It means you're in control of your money, not the other way around. That's how you build a strong financial foundation, one that gives you freedom, peace, and space to grow. You're not just protecting your money, you're building a deeper sense of satisfaction that no new purchase can buy. Now that we understand the illusion of wealth, here's the real question: what's the true price of looking rich? And why does it often keep people from becoming truly rich? Take a look around, especially in today's world of social media. We live in an era where whatever goes viral is what's considered cool. You see someone dining at a fancy restaurant and suddenly you want to go too. You see the latest designer bag trending on TikTok, and you start thinking you need it. You see a flash sale pop up online, and before you know it, you've hit checkout. It's so easy to get swept up in it all. And without realizing it, our money slowly leaks away, bit by bit, on things that don't really matter. Dave Ramsey puts it bluntly: you must gain control over your money, or the lack of it will forever control you. In other words, if you don't manage your spending, your finances will manage you. Because trying to look rich isn't just expensive, it's risky. Buying a luxury car, designer clothes, the newest gadgets, all to keep up appearances. But if you're not doing it wisely, you're digging your own financial hole. Ramsey says this habit costs you two of the most valuable things you have: the money in your hands right now and the opportunity to invest for your future. And those two things are far more valuable than appearances could ever be. Think about it. Let's say you have $70,000. You could buy a brand new car to look impressive, or you could invest that money in a diversified portfolio. Stocks, mutual funds, maybe even real estate. The value of that car will drop every year, but your investments can grow exponentially. So which would you rather choose? Looking rich for a moment, or becoming rich for real? Beyond the financial side, Dave Ramsey also talks about the psychological side of money. Trying to keep up with other people's lifestyles is exhausting. You end up stressed, anxious, and constantly feeling like you're not enough. There's always someone cooler, richer, or more up to date. It's like running a race with no finish line. You keep running, but you never actually get there. If you live your life chasing validation from others, you'll never feel satisfied. No matter how much money you make, it'll never feel like enough. In the end, trying to look rich only does two things. It slows down your financial growth, and it takes a toll on your mental health. That's why Ramsey says, stop worrying about looking rich, focus on being rich. Because when you focus on the process, the results will follow. And in the next part, we'll dive deeper into a concept called stealth wealth, the idea of unflashy wealth. It's not just a financial strategy, it's a mindset. And believe it or not, it's one of the biggest secrets of truly wealthy people around the world. So we've talked about how pretending to be poor can actually be a strategy for building real wealth. Now let's go one level deeper into the concept of stealth wealth. If you've never heard the term before, stealth wealth is basically the art of quietly building wealth without showing it off. It's not about living in extreme frugality or pretending to be broke. It's about living modestly, even when you have money, because you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Dave Ramsey often talks about this mindset. He says the key to becoming wealthy isn't how much money you make, it's how much you keep and invest. Or in his words, live within your means, not above them. In other words, if you make $3,000 a month, don't live like someone who makes $10,000. And even if you have $100,000 sitting in your account, that doesn't mean you should spend it all just to look successful. The stealth wealth mindset is simple, but incredibly powerful. The goal is to quietly grow your wealth without drawing attention or triggering envy. Picture two people. One loves to show off on social media. Every new purchase ends up on their story. The other stays quiet. No flashy posts, just consistent investing every month. 10 years later, which one do you think has more real assets? The answer's pretty obvious. Stealth wealth isn't just a strategy, it's a way of life. You stop wasting time chasing trends because you know that what's viral today will be forgotten next week. You stop wasting energy trying to impress others because you understand that validation never lasts. Instead, you focus on what truly matters, growing your net worth, not your image. Now let's look at things from a more practical angle. People who live by the stealth wealth mindset usually direct their money toward long-term investments, like stocks, real estate, or retirement funds. They understand that luxury cars, designer fashion, and the latest gadgets are all depreciating assets. Their value drops fast. Meanwhile, investments, property, and businesses grow over time and generate passive income. The beauty of stealth wealth lies in its results: financial stability without the drama. You don't have to worry about losing social status, because you're not even playing that game. You don't stress about envy from others, because most people don't even know how much you're worth. There's also another benefit people rarely talk about: security and peace of mind. When you don't draw attention to your wealth, You naturally avoid risks like theft, scams, or even social jealousy. You get to live freely, without the pressure to constantly look perfect. Dave Ramsey often says that stealth wealth is the foundation of long-term prosperity. When your investments keep growing, you're not just building a future for yourself. You're building one for the next generation too. And here's something important. Stealth wealth aligns closely with values like gratitude and humility. When you stop measuring your worth by what you own, you start finding joy in simpler things. You feel grateful because you can live without financial stress. You feel fulfilled because you know your money is working for you, not the other way around. This shift in mindset is especially important today. We live in a world where the richest 1% control nearly half of global wealth, according to an Oxfam report. That number shows just how wide the gap has become between the wealthy and everyone else. But here's the good news. It doesn't mean we can't catch up. We can learn from how the wealthy think. And the most interesting part? Many of them don't look rich at all. According to a report by Credit Suisse, about 1% of the world's wealthiest families own 43% of global wealth. And across countless studies, these people share one major common trait. They have the right financial role models. Dave Ramsey always emphasizes this point. If you want to become wealthy, look at who you're learning from. If your role models are people who only show off, you'll get stuck in the same cycle, spending recklessly, acting on impulse, and living under constant stress. But if you learn from people who built wealth through discipline and smart financial decisions, you'll grow faster and more sustainably. Ramsey often warns, don't be fooled by the glamorous lifestyles influencers show online. Real wealth doesn't always go viral. Sometimes it's quiet, because truly wealthy people are focused on working, not on getting attention. The genuinely rich tend to share a few timeless qualities. They're disciplined, patient, and consistent. They have long-term plans. They know exactly where their money goes. And they don't get easily tempted by trends. One of the most famous examples? Warren Buffett, one of the richest people on the planet. Yet he lives an incredibly modest life. He still lives in the same house he bought back in 1958. He doesn't drive flashy cars or collect luxury brands. But his assets? Worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Buffett's philosophy aligns perfectly with Dave Ramsey's teachings. He focuses on long-term investments, not instant gratification. He lives well within his means, far below what he could afford. And most importantly, he spends based on value, not vanity. He only buys something if it's genuinely useful and has lasting worth, not because others have it, and not because it looks impressive. Another great example is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She started her business with just about $5,000 in savings and went on to build a billion-dollar company. If you look at her mindset, a few patterns stand out. She thought creatively and differently. She didn't follow the crowd, she solved a real problem in a new way. She took bold risks. She invested her entire savings into an idea she believed in. She stayed persistent. She faced rejection after rejection, but she never gave up. The key here is belief and consistency. It's the same with money. If you believe in your long-term strategy and stay consistent, results will come sooner or later. Many truly wealthy people share another trait: philanthropy. They don't just focus on accumulating money, they give back. Not for publicity or image, but because they understand the impact their wealth can have on others. And that too is part of the frugal living philosophy. When you're not wasting money on meaningless things, you create space to help others in meaningful ways. At this point, the idea of living simply starts to make even more sense. Because as Dave Ramsey says, living frugally isn't about deprivation, it's about control. It's not about living small, it's about taking charge of your money. He puts it this way: you must have a written plan. Create a budget every month before the month begins. It sounds simple, but that's where the real power lies. When you have a clear financial plan, you know where your money is going. You stop asking, where did all my money go? Because you've already told your money where to go from the start. Frugal living doesn't mean living in scarcity. It means you know your priorities. You'd rather save and invest than chase someone else's lifestyle. You understand that every dollar has a direction and a purpose, and that's how real wealth is built, slowly, intentionally, and sustainably. More importantly, you stop being controlled by money and start controlling it. So, after talking about stealth wealth and how living simply can be a powerful strategy for building real wealth, we've come to the final core of Dave Ramsey's philosophy: living frugally. But before you jump to conclusions, no, frugal doesn't mean being cheap or depriving yourself. For Ramsey, frugality is about taking control of your life by taking control of your money. He often says, a budget is telling your money where to go, instead of wondering where it went. It sounds simple, but if you think about it, most of us do the opposite. By the end of the month, the money's already gone, even though payday was just last week. And when someone asks, where did all your money go? The answer is almost always the same: I don't know. It just disappeared. That's exactly what Ramsey wants us to change. He teaches us to manage money intentionally, not impulsively. Make a written plan before the month even begins. Decide in advance how much goes to needs, how much to savings, how much to fun, and how much to investing. That way, every dollar has a purpose. In Ramsey's view, living frugally doesn't mean you can't enjoy life. In fact, it's the opposite. You should enjoy life, but do it consciously and strategically. Know when it's time to spend and when it's time to hold back. Know the difference between what you need and what you just want in the moment. It's a subtle difference, but it changes everything. You can still eat out, travel, and buy the things you love. The difference is you're doing it with financial confidence, not with debt. You're enjoying life because you can afford to, not because you're trying to look like you can. Living frugally, according to Dave Ramsey, also means avoiding consumer debt. The kind that doesn't grow your assets but quietly drains your income every month. Things like credit card balances, buy now, pay later plans, or loans for stuff you don't actually need. Ramsey says debt is like a chain that keeps you from moving forward. The more payments you take on, the less freedom you have to grow. And ironically, the harder you try to look wealthy through debt, the further you drift from real wealth. Financial freedom isn't about having everything. It's about not depending on anyone just to get by. And that can only happen when you have full control over your own money. Frugality also teaches you to make decisions based on values, not vanity. You start to think twice before making a purchase, not because you're afraid to spend, but because you want every dollar to create real impact. Instead of buying expensive shoes just for the label, you choose ones that are high quality and durable. Instead of hanging out at pricey cafes every day, you make coffee at home and invest the savings. It may sound small, but done consistently, the results can be life-changing. And here's the secret. Living frugally doesn't mean losing anything. It means gaining back control over your life. You start feeling calmer. No bills haunting you at night. You feel more confident because you have an emergency fund. You feel happier because you've stopped comparing your life to anyone else's. And most importantly, you feel freer because every financial decision you make moves you closer to independence, not further away. Ramsey often says, live below your means today so you can live above your means tomorrow. In other words, if you can be patient and disciplined now, your future self will get to enjoy life without financial stress. And believe this, when you reach the point where you could buy anything you want, but you don't feel the need to, that's the peak of financial freedom. That's the moment you're truly rich, not just in your bank account, but in your mind and your heart. Beyond that, living frugally also teaches us the meaning of contentment. You don't need to have everything to be happy. You just need enough. Enough to live comfortably, enough to help others, and enough to sleep peacefully at night without worrying about debt. And from that sense of enough, true wealth is born. Because real happiness isn't measured by how much you have, but by how well you use what you have. If we were to sum up all of Dave Ramsey's lessons, it would sound like this. 1. Don't chase the illusion of wealth. Appearances can be deceiving. Plenty of people look rich but are drowning in debt. Focus on being stable, not looking impressive. 2. Build stealth wealth. Accumulate assets, not stuff. Save, invest, and let your money grow quietly without showing off. 3. Live frugally with purpose. Take control of your money with a clear plan. Live below your means today so your future can be wide open tomorrow. 4. Avoid consumer debt. If you must borrow, do it for something that adds value, not something that drains it. 5. Be grateful for the journey. Because true wealth isn't just about numbers in your account. It's about the peace, freedom, and contentment you feel along the way. And finally, there's one quote from Dave Ramsey that, to me, says it all. Financial peace isn't the acquisition of stuff. It's learning to live on less than you make so you can give money back and have money to invest. You can't win until you do this. In other words, financial peace isn't about how much you own. It's about learning to live on less than you earn, so you have room to give, invest, and grow. You don't truly win until you've mastered that. So from now on, if you want to build real wealth, stop trying to look rich. You don't need to show off. You don't need to chase every trend that drains your wallet. Just focus on what truly matters. Working hard, staying disciplined, saving, investing, and living simply. Because the truly wealthy rarely look rich. But when they need something, they never have to worry about whether they can afford it. And that is the real meaning of financial freedom. Thanks for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this kind of discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below about what financial topics you'd like to explore next. Until next time, stay humble, stay wise, and keep growing wealth without needing to show it off.